evening, everybody. This is Jackie Luqman.
And I'm Abdushahi Luqman.
And welcome to Live in Luqman Nation. It is Sunday, December 17th. We are coming to you from Washington, D.C. And we're going to give you guys a few minutes to hop onto the stream, grab a snack. Luqman Nation is the place where we hope you enjoy coming to because we don't want you to be we don't want you to be afraid. We want you to be informed.
Don't be afraid. Be informed. And welcome to the most controversial show on the internet.
So right off the bat with the controversy, while we're hanging out and waiting for people to hop onto the stream, let
me just do some reminders quick while we're waiting for people.
Okay, yeah, let's do some reminders.
So first of all, if you're new to Luqman Nation, if you're new to Luqman Nation, this is the place that we do political talk, social commentary. Basically, we talk whatever we want to talk about, but our perspective is Black, Pan-Africanist, Christian, Muslim, Islamic. We just we're not one-trick ponies here,
right?
And you won't be able to wrap up Jackie and I in a nice little bow, throw us in a box, and say here.
This is what the Luqmans are gonna say.
Yeah, that's not going to work. But if you're new to this, don't be afraid. Sometimes, especially me, my filter is a little off sometimes.
He has,
so don't be afraid if I get a little angry, because I understand that a lot of folks out there, a lot of white folks and some black folks particularly, get cringe when a black man appears to be angry, because, and the reason why I say that is I did a live stream the other day.
Yeah.
And I was just joking. I mean, actually, I wasn't joking. It was annoying. But those of you who visited our page seen where I was going to start a movement. I am going to start a movement against what FHER. That's the feminine hostile eye rolling. Right.
Right. FH. All right.
Yeah. So and I'm not going to take the time to go through all of it. Just visit the page. You'll see where I did the live stream, and that explains what I mean. But I get a little excited when I talk.
A little?
Well, no, I get a little excited when I talk, and especially because I'm from the New York, New Jersey area. That's how we talk. And so I get a little animated sometimes, man, and I'm like, oh my God, people grow a spine. You was doing the live stream when I was talking about the feminine eye roll and stuff, and then all of a sudden, man, it's like, oh wow, let's see what the Luqman sing. And then they get on, they see that I'm a little animated about something. They don't even take the time to stay on long enough to see what I'm talking about. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, he's screaming and hollering, let me get off. Oh my, and I'm like, my God, people, you can't be that timid, man. Jesus Christ. So if you're new to Luqman Nation, trust me. We have our own style here. Jackie has her style, I have my style, and it both works together. Don't be all bent out of shape. Because the way I might say some things sometimes. I'm 51 years old, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So
yeah, or the way I say something, because you know how I get. I can get real emotional and start cussing. Don't
right. We're not formal here, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And also if you're new, click the notification button. That's on the that's I guess somewhere in that stream. Mine's just got interrupted, but. Click the notification buttons, and that will inform you of upcoming live streams that we will be doing possibly in the future.
Yeah.
Also, follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. If you don't like all the politics stuff, if you don't like constantly being deluded and all of our political content, our social commentary, and all of the black stuff, we have a place for you. And that is our friends who like coffee, current events, and politics. That's sort of like a Facebook page that we set up for sort of our lighter content. It's very, it's open over there. Jackie and I, we don't play the post police over there.
No.
Half the time we visit occasionally, but it's usually a place where our friends hang out.
Right.
They post stuff of interest to them, and a lot of it's pretty good stuff, and so we basically just gave that to y'all as a playground, and also as a forum for a lot of our friends to get to know one another on a different level outside of what Jackie and I do.
Right.
And it has, we've been running it for a while, and people have started to develop some good friendships over there on the friends page.
Yeah.
And also we have Brick by Brick, which is Jackie's show, part of the Luqman Media family, and Jackie deals with serious topics from a historical nature. So so we got whatever you got, man. Whatever your interest in is, or we got something that could fill that plate, and we got a documentary that's coming up next year, and and we're gonna start putting a lot of time to get that done. So we got a lot of stuff coming on. We're gonna be busy. So anyway, enough of that. Back to today, the Miss Camera lady over here. We was at church today.
Yeah.
And we talk about our church all the time.
All the time, because we are people of faith. We are Christians, and you have an interesting faith journey yourself. In that you used to be Muslim. And now you're a practicing Christian.
I'm still Muslim.
Well, still.
No, the reason
so why do you say that?
No, the reason why I say I'm still Muslim, because Muslim in Arabic means one who submits himself to God.
So that's not very different from what a Christian is supposed to be, right?
So that's what it means in Arabic. One who submits himself to God. So I'm not going to say I don't do that.
Right, because that's that's even what Christians are supposed to be doing, right? So
which is why labels are so important, so dangerous.
Sometimes labels can get you in trouble.
Right.
So we streamed from our church service today, which we're going to do more of, because we want people to see what it looks like when people of faith preach our faith from the perspective of revolution and social and racial and gender justice, which are principles in our faith, in our Bible. But because certain people have hijacked the narrative of our faith, we don't hear that a lot. So we want people to hear that coming from a position of faith, and we'll probably visit other churches, mosques, wherever, synagogues, and hear other people preaching from their faith perspective on issues of racial and social and gender justice from their holy text, because these things exist in the context of marching orders from our faiths. Right. They do, but certain political entities have hijacked the faith narrative in this country, especially in regard to so-called evangelical Christians, to the point where evangelical Christians now, they're focusing on, well, I don't think we should be calling ourselves evangelicals anymore. But what we call ourselves, that's not even the issue. It's the ideals that people of the Christian faith who have chosen to identify themselves as politically conservative, those ideals that they have attached to Christianity, that are the problem. And it's become a particular problem for Black Christians, because allowing conservative Christians to hijack the Christian faith has caused this faith crisis for Black Christians, where we've got white people telling us that as Christians, the only things we're supposed to be concerned about, or the things we're supposed to be most concerned about, are being against abortion, being against gay marriage, and being against premarital sex and teaching of sex education in schools, when Jesus ain't never talk about none of that stuff. Right. And you've got a whole bunch of Black people who are oppressed economically, socially, and discrimination in employment, discrimination in housing, discrimination in finance, healthcare, everything and everywhere, sitting up in churches on Sundays talking about we need to stop the gays from getting married. But the very people who are telling us that we need to stop the gays from getting married are also passing legislation that screws us over. And so that's created this crisis of conscience.
Was it existential?
I think it's kind of existential when you try to divorce yourself from the struggle. That's the problem with black. That's like the theme for the whole show. Not only tonight, but maybe the next few shows. Like the existential crisis of blackness that black people face in the different spaces in this country, especially black Christians.
Well, I mean, it's not really outside of the norm because of our experience and our journey in this country and in other parts of the world. Black and the meaning of black and what black means and what black has become is constantly evolving.
Right.
So, I mean, it evolves and then it goes back. And, so there's never this agreed upon concept of what blackness is.
Exactly.
Or what the black experience is.
Right, right. Because, we walk in different spaces. We have different experiences. We experience different stuff. But from a Christian perspective, though, the stuff that's being trafficked about the faith and what is godly in the political arena is not godly in the Christian arena. It really isn't. And that creates this crisis of conscience it ought to create a crisis of conscience for all Christians. But it especially creates one for black Christians because of, like I said before, the policies that these people who tell us we're supposed to be so freaked out about two men getting married that we focus completely on that and the rights of the unborn and the rights of the fetus. Meanwhile, these very same people are passing legislation that continues to disenfranchise and oppress people of color, black people, native people, poor people in this country. And those are the people our Bible tell us, the oppressed, the marginalized, the forgotten, the widow, the orphan, the stranger, the immigrant. Those are the people our Bible tell us that we are supposed to be fighting for justice for. So this is an interesting, this crisis of conscience that this politicization of the Christian faith has caused, has created a very interesting outcome for one particular black Christian. And we're gonna show you this video.
Roll that bean footage.
Roll that beautiful bean footage. It's not what I meant to do.
I can no longer be in the party that is headed up by President Donald Trump. I left him because of his stupidity. He's basically unfit for the office. And secondly, I left the Republican Party because the Republican Party is now walking in the steps of Donald Trump. I joined the Republican Party about 30 years ago. The platform seemed to be more godly than the platform of the Democratic Party.
It is a true fact, my friends, that the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling on same-sex marriage is ungodly.
Now, Donald was a bad choice. What were we to do? We had to make a selection. I held my nose and I voted for Donald Trump to stop Hillary Clinton. I wish that I would not have voted for the presidential election because I hate the whole thought that I voted for Donald Trump. He does things that sane people don't do. The Republican Party has taken on the characteristics of Donald Trump. They are supporting everything Donald Trump says and does, all of his decisions. You see, no one is saying to him, hey, wait a minute. No, you shouldn't do that. No, you shouldn't act like that. He seems to go after people of color. He goes after the NBA players, Mexicans, the Muslims. He was feeding red meat to his base when he attacked the NFL players, when he said what he said, when he called them son of a bitches. He knew what he was doing. He knew that his base would love that. I am also appalled at the fact that the Church of Jesus Christ is not standing up against Donald Trump. I'm asking the church to please reevaluate your Christianity, where you stand with the Lord Jesus Christ. I would love to say to those out there who find themselves in the same place that I found myself in, search your heart. If your heart is not pleased with what you see, I would urge you to come out of the Republican Party and be an independent. The Republican Party looks bad now. It's fallen. It has fallen morally, it has fallen politically, socially, and in every other way.
Now, I mean, that's all well and good. Let me get rid of that. Sorry about that, you guys. That's all well and good.
I can no longer
that he has, that Reverend Dozier has realized that his conscience can no longer allow him to support the Republican Party. That's all fine and wonderful. But where I take issue with what he says and his stance is that he says that the GOP platform seemed more godly. According to who? According to the GOP. Not according to the Bible. Because if he's reading the same Bible I read, there's nowhere in the Bible that says that we are to use the laws of the state to force people to adhere to biblical principles, to the principles of God or to the laws of Jesus Christ. Even in instances in the Bible where God directs someone like Jonah to go to a city and tell them, listen, y'all, if y'all don't stop doing the evil things that you're doing, I am going to destroy you. What God didn't tell Jonah to do was to go to the local magistrate and tell them, you need to change all of your laws, and all of your politicians need to adopt thus saith the Lord.
Right.
That's not the way God does it. And I understand that people misrepresent a lot of what's in the Bible, and a lot of what was written in the Bible is questionable. I know. I fully, readily admit that some of it doesn't make sense to me, and some of it is contradictory. But what I do know about God is that there is nothing in that Bible that tells Christians that our job is to change policies and laws to force people to obey God.
That's basically setting up a theocracy.
Exactly. There's nothing in the Bible that says that we believers of Jesus Christ are supposed to establish a theocracy based on the doctrine of Jesus Christ. The GOP has convinced Christians that that's what God would have us do, but that is not in the book. So this seemingly nice enough guy, Reverend Dozier, has been preaching to his church, I'm guessing full of black folks, that what they're supposed to be focused on is stopping abortion and stopping the gay people from getting married, like you heard him say in his own video, that, the Supreme Court decision is ungodly. Why? It's the law of the land. 2 men getting married,
or 2 women,
getting married has not affected my marriage to him. We still married. He's still my husband. He's still straight. So am I. I haven't turned gay yet. You gay?
I'm happy all the time, yeah.
Oh, not that kind of gay.
I'm happy all the time. Yeah.
But I mean, so there's this idea that the GOP has presented that
Oh, go ahead.
We can't. We don't have any more broadband signal. We turned off the whatchamacallit. Did it come unplugged?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Uh-oh. So, we had a little signal interruption there. Apologize for that, guys. So, what can't be done, what can't happen, so the GOP has convinced a bunch of Christians that if we let people who are not like us have the same rights, under the law that we have, then somehow that's going to change who we are. And that's a threat to who we are, not as Americans, but as Christians. And I've always found that to be offensive and a mischaracterization of the Christian faith, because that signals to me that the faith is weak. If what a bunch of other people who are not of the faith, and even some people who are of the faith, do that I may not see as right, how weak is my faith if that people's behavior messes up my whole relationship with Christ? That's crazy.
I mean, yeah, and when I watched this, I said to myself, I said, well, I said it's good that he came to a conclusion, and it's good that he came to a conclusion that the way that the GOP is going is not morally right for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in my opinion that we're too harsh on people like him. I think that and what you say, I agree with you, but I think that we're a little too what they call it too myopic or narrow in the way that we see these things. I think that the progressives have a lot to do with the right co-opting Christian faith and Christian values. Because there hasn't been in the progressive movement any tolerance for people of faith.
That's true. That's
true. So
that's
true. We see it here. You start talking about church, people run. And what I'm saying is that we don't, people on the right and people on the left. One of the things that people on the right and people on the left have in common is that their own fantastical view of their environment and of the world view and everything. And this is the reason why we have to not be so connected to even our own ideology, because our ideology warps our reality.
True.
And so what happens, and that's just not only on the left, it's on the right too. And so what happens is that the left has not really given allowed for religious expression, and so it forced a lot of people to go to the right because the right, as crazy as they may have been over there, but they weren't shutting down religious expression. True. They weren't telling people who believe in the Bible that they're stupid. They weren't going around telling people who believe in God that there's something wrong with them, and on and on and on and on. They weren't saying that if you have a problem with abortion, there's something wrong with you. And the thing of it is that at least on the right, people were allowed to express that, even though those who co-opted it had their own political agenda. We know about what we call the Falwellites, and people like that, the white evangelical conservative element. They basically took all that religious expression, molded it into political agendas.
Right.
We could have done the same thing, and we did do the same thing during the civil rights era.
This is true.
When the left took black ministers and white ministers and those who came together in order to fight against black oppression, oppression of women and everything, and they did take that and they shaped that religious expression into a political ideology. But then along the way, something happened where all of a sudden it became taboo to be a person of faith in the left.
Yeah.
And I don't know when it happened, but it happened to the point where now it was like, if you're not a secularist humanist, if your religion, and secularism is a religion, it's secularism again is a religion, because anything that is a way of life is a religion.
Anything that is a deeply held belief that is a way of life for you, that's a religion. Right. So atheism is also a religion.
They're all considered religion. So what happened is that the left became more and more secularist, and it became more and more intolerant of faith and people of religion. So it's no wonder that people like him, who probably normally wouldn't even went to the GOP.
That's a good point.
But it didn't make any sense. It didn't surprise me that you had an element of people who would say, "Man, I love what they stand for, but they'll cut my head off if I talk about Jesus Christ." But at least on the other side, the other side is saying, "Well, you could come to us." But there's always a compromise.
Right.
They can go to the right and talk about Jesus or Muhammad or whoever their belief system, but not Muhammad, but Jesus.
Yes.
But they can go over to the right and talk about Jesus. But look what they have to compromise.
Right.
You know, so I think that if we are going to see, we are ways on the left, and we're going to talk about Omarosa. Don't leave us. We're going to talk about it.
Calm down,
because y'all, everybody's running to the hills.
We're talking about religion.
It's an hour show. We'll talk about Omarosa. Calm down.
This is related. Trust me.
So anyway, getting back to my point is that it's not. We have to. We have and when I say we, the left has used the playbook of racial politics to attract those people. They have used the playbook of racial politics, and we spoke about this on the show, of using their most loyal base, throw us under the bus to get the Bible Belt whites.
Oh, you mean the left or the right?
I'm talking about the left use racial politics as opposed to a lot. What I'm saying is this. The left was intolerant of religion.
Right.
And instead of and it was intolerant of religion, but appealing to the same people who are religious through other methods.
I see what you mean. Okay, yeah.
And that's my point. So it's not like saying that, well, we have progressive Christians that we could use to help reach those people,
right,
or help reach people of faith. No, what we said was we're gonna lock more black people up. We're gonna, all the other stuff that is like the guy said is like steak for them. Then we started promoting that. So I mean, so my point being is that if we are going to enlarge our tent, as Tom Perez and everybody else in the DNC are always talking about, we have to give up this attitude towards religion. We have to because America, for the most part, even though most of us might not be practicing going to church type folk, but if you poll the average American, they're going to identify with some faith.
Right. Exactly.
And that's a large voting block that we constantly alienate.
That's true. I mean, we saw that this morning when we, not like we get a whole bunch of people all the time we live stream, but dang, man, it was like people saw the video capture of the pulpit and the cross, and people were like, oh no, they talking about Jesus, they talking about religion. But you missed an incredible sermon from our pastor when he was talking about how we can look to our faith to be renewed in strength and get the hope that we need to keep fighting, because a new day is coming for justice and equality and peace.
Right.
But we just have to be refreshed to keep fighting toward that. But I mean, a part of the issue with the intolerance of religion also within and the reason so many black people are caught in this trap, black people of faith are caught in this trap in politics, in between a political left that doesn't want us to express our faith because the left is so intolerant of faith and of people of faith, and in between the right that is very welcoming of people of faith but is intolerant of people.
Right, exactly.
Right. When black people of faith are stuck, and we stay stuck partially because too many of us in the pews don't challenge and question our leadership. We don't do it in church, and we don't do it outside of church too much either. So the dynamic we see in congregations where, like Reverend Dozier's congregation, who I'm sure love him very much and respect him, but when he is praising the virtues of a political party that pushes legislation that is harmful to the people in his community, it's like the people in the congregation don't question, well, Reverend Dozier, I get that the GOP stands for, protecting the unborn, and that's important to us as Christians. But what about the fact that the GOP is also very pro cutting the social safety net? What about, how do you feel about the GOP being so, tough on crime, and we know what that means for our people. So it's that kind of challenge that we have not seen in black churches from from members of black congregations, with black religious leaders who are supportive of the GOP because of these so-called 3 or 4 big issues that we're supposed to be focused on because of our faith. But we also see it outside of the church. We also see it with black people not challenging so-called leadership everywhere it exists.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right, and this is where Omarosa comes in.
No, because one of the things that need to be understood is the fact that until we understand that there's Puritans in both sides,
right?
Right. See, and that's the thing that I think that keeps tripping us up. And I'll leave it at this because we do got to go on. But the thing that we forget that there's Puritans in both parts. You got we spoke about the puritanical attitudes in the right, as far as evangelical Christians and their agenda,
right?
And the fact that you can't be the fact that he thought that because the right promoted were anti-abortion and anti-gay rights and all these other things, xenophobia and all this stuff, that he felt that in his puritanical view, that, in order to be godly, you had to adopt these principles.
Right.
But then you go into the left, and then you have a secularist Puritanism.
Right.
And that secularist Puritanism, don't think that is any better because you remove God from it. It's still puritanical. So now you still got people who have to subject themselves to the Puritanism of veganism or Puritanism. It's all about shaping people's attitudes and behaviors towards something that you don't like or that you're trying to promote. That is the basis of religion. Because we don't put a God to it, doesn't mean that it's any less religious. Because we don't because it doesn't have a scripture, So the fact that if you got people who wants to come over and all of a sudden it's like, well, you would be a better progressive if you stop eating meat, or you'd be a better progressive if you shrink your carbon footprint, whatever that may be. When you start talking about cryptocurrency being revolutionary and all this other kind of stuff, so we need to be honest on the left that the same way that we vilify people on the right for touting what we call prehistoric religious cavemanish views on religious values, we have to understand that just because we remove God from the equation or we remove traditional faith-based religions from the equation, that the puritanical elements in the left is just as off-putting, which is which is one of the reasons why in a country where most people claim Christianity, progressives are locked out in a lot of these places, and that's the why. So that's my spiel. But anyway, Omarosa.
You're right. That is exactly right. Which was why it was so refreshing for us when we found the church that we found. Right, exactly. And the great story behind how we found our church was we were mobilizing for Bernie Sanders. And turns out our pastor was mobilizing for Bernie. He wasn't our pastor then.
We didn't really know him.
We didn't know him then. Somebody invited us to a meeting and said, hey, you guys are supporting Sanders. Why don't you come to this meeting?
Right.
And we'll see what we can do to mobilize for Sanders before the election. And we go there, and there's Reverend Graylin Hagler. And we're like, hey, wait, you're a pastor of a church? Of a Christian church,
right? And
you're politically progressive, and you are active in politics and campaigning for a progressive. Oh, we got to get to know you, So it's a shame that we felt that he and his congregation is unusual, and we're trying to fight against that trend in the left. That puritanism on the left that locks out people of faith, that is just as bad and can be just as dangerous.
And even and it's sad because the people that so many progressives lock out don't even realize that a lot of people of faith have the same message.
The exact same.
You know, I mean, if you would have listened to the sermon today that the Pastor Hagler did, I mean, there is no progressive worth their salt that could have had any problem with that.
Right.
You know, with that message today. He spoke about white supremacy oppression and everything, and brought it back to the Bible. So, you know, it's not the religion. It's how the religion is being interpreted and how it's being used. But we do got to move on, as Omarosa thing.
We do, because, like I said, the lack of criticism of black leadership in the church is evident in the lack of criticism that we tend to express toward black leaders or black people in positions of some kind of authority and influence, because everybody who's got a position ain't a leader.
Right, exactly.
Right, and I think Omarosa Manigault Newman is very indicative of that. And I've seen over the past couple of days people saying, especially black women, saying that, you know, we shouldn't criticize Omarosa. We shouldn't be glad. We shouldn't be taking pleasure in her being brought down because, you know, she's a black woman and we don't want to, you know, we shouldn't be celebrating this system taking black women down.
Because white folks are looking.
Because white people are looking.
You remember the Wanda Sykes comedy routine, and you know, and she said that how she this paranoia that a lot of black people have of being on our best behavior because white people are watching us, and she would use examples like, man, I want to buy that watermelon, but white people are looking, or I want to get that box of chicken over there, but white people are looking. So I mean, so it was funny because it reminded me of that, that a lot of that is based upon the fact that you know, we don't want to appear to chew up our own because white people are watching.
White people are watching.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it is crazy, especially in the case of people like Omarosa. And let me make this real clear. I'm not celebrating this woman's downfall because I don't know her. And I don't celebrate people's downfalls as a general. I take no pleasure in anybody getting their comeuppance, or, you know, whatever it is, whatever you want to call anybody being dragged through the coals, you know, dragged over the coals, raked through the mud, because I don't profit from it, right? I don't gain anything from anybody falling on hard times for any reason. So that's just my personality. People are going through some stuff, and even if they caused it, I'm not going to be sitting there going, woo, that's right. I just don't do that. There are some serious truths that we need to come to grips with some of the people, some of our people who find themselves in positions of authority, that when things go wrong for them, we need to be able to be real honest about who these people were from the very beginning. Because Mrs. Manigault Newman was not like a friend to black people from the jump. I used to watch The Apprentice. The first 2 seasons that it was on, I did watch The Apprentice. And I did really like that show, that first 2 seasons. After the 3rd season, it just got on my nerves.
Yeah, I never watched it.
But, and I knew who Donald Trump was then, always hated the man, knew who he was when he was a real estate mogul in New York City, knew all about, you know, the lawsuits against him and his company with his racist rental policies, and knew about the ads he took out against the Central Park Five, you know, calling them animals and calling for their, you know, the death penalty and you know, all that stuff. So I knew who Donald Trump was, and because it was a television show and he was just, you know, another white talking head on television, didn't make any difference to me.
Right, he was just an entertainer.
He was just an entertainer, and he wasn't getting any money from me because I wasn't buying anything they were advertising. It was just an interesting show to watch. So Omarosa was on the first couple of seasons. Her character, the way she presented herself, now I don't know if she is like this in real life or not, because I don't know her. Contrary to popular belief, all black people don't know each other. I know that there are some people out there who think that we do, but I don't know Omarosa. She don't know me. So I have no reason to be loyal to her. I can tell you that when she was on The Apprentice, the persona that she allowed to be put out there of herself was of an incredibly selfish, self-serving, catty, nasty, backstabbing, just I'm out for me kind of person.
Now that part, I've heard that a lot. I never watched the show, but I've heard that reputation about it.
And for all of my feminists out there, I'm not saying this because I'm mischaracterizing an assertive woman and speaking negatively about her because women can't be assertive. That's not, no, she was not assertive. That's not what she was. Omarosa was intentionally, her persona on that show was intentionally the bad guy. Mm-hmm. She was, as we call in wrestling, as us wrestling fans call them, the heel.
Right, the heel, yeah.
She played the heel, and she played it well. Everybody tuned in to see what crazy ass stuff Omarosa was going to say, what crazy ass stuff she was going to do, what hateful things she was going to do to get ahead to the next round, who she was going to stab in the back, what she was going to lie about.
Oh, it was reality TV.
It was reality TV, and the worst of people was always on this.
Right.
There was always somebody that had to be the absolute worst. Now, it can be argued that maybe this was the producer's decision, but I don't,
scripted or something,
or script. But I might buy that for one season. I don't buy that for 2 or 3 because she was on there more than once.
So what happened to her on the show?
So on the show, the one season, the last season I watched where she was on, the two final contestants who were left had this big project that they had to do. I forget what the project was, but Omarosa was on the team of the one of the contestants who was a black guy. Who was the finalist guy, very, very smart, very, business savvy. He made it to the finalist, one of the finalists on The Apprentice. I mean, he's no slouch. So, but black people have an allegiance and loyalty to black people. Sometimes this is our downfall.
Yeah.
And politically, this is definitely our downfall. Because Omarosa was on this dude's team. She had some tasks that he had given her to do in order to complete this project and win. Right? Because they were ahead. His team was ahead. Omarosa knows she has some stuff she has to do. This chick goes and has lunch. She goes to a party, takes some pictures. She does everything.
She sabotaged.
She sabotaged this dude's project.
Right, wow.
Knew what she had, just didn't do it. So then when he goes, he finds out about it. He finds out that she hasn't done what she was supposed to do. So he has to backtrack, find people to do what she didn't do, which ended up causing him to be a little bit short of his goal. So when he's standing in front of Trump explaining the situation, Trump asked him, so when you found out that Omarosa didn't do what why didn't you fire her? And his answer was, which is the problem with some black folks, our loyalty to shady black people who do not mean us any good. His answer was, well, I didn't think I could fire her. No, wait. No. You're the project manager. If somebody on your project is not performing, your job is to eliminate the people or the areas that are not performing on your project and rectify that situation so that area is performing again so the project can be completed to satisfaction on time and on budget. You're in business. You know this. I have always believed that he didn't not know that he couldn't fire her. He didn't want to fire her because she's a sister.
And he couldn't say that.
And he couldn't say that, but he didn't want to fire her because she's a sister and he's loyal to, he didn't want to be disloyal to his sister. But his sister was disloyal to him. So in order to have saved himself, he should have fired her, which is basically what Donald Trump told him, which is why Donald Trump fired him and the other team won. So this is the way we are in politics in general, right? So we are so loyal to our brothers and sisters who have some kind of position of influence. They don't have to be in any real, position of real power because really the position Omarosa was in, she could have used her position as Director of Communications for the White House Office of Public Liaison.
Oh, that was her title.
That was her actual title. That's an actual position in the White House. It's an appointee.
Anybody ever had that job before?
Yes, people have had it before, and the office has gotten, raised the profiles of some issues and done some outreach on some issues. I mean, it does have a function. It might not lead to any policy, but it gets people who the White House wouldn't have otherwise had any visibility into their positions, their organizations. The White House gets those people into the White House in front of the president, basically.
All right, but see, this is the thing, because I want to get to the meat of this thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, okay, so this position that Omarosa had was already a pre-existing one, which means that this office was there with other presidents.
Yes.
All right, now, what I want to get to is the fact that, now we all know, well, you explained to us about Omarosa's position and what she was like, but the thing of it is that now we're going to fast forward this to the point where during Trump's campaign and his half-hearted effort to reach out to black people. Well, some people say half-hearted effort, but his thing was that he was going to make sure that his administration would have somebody that was going to be his eyes and ears, his arms and legs, in order to, as he say, do something for black folks. Sort of like this Black Marshall plan that he touted and all this stuff. And Omarosa was supposed to be the liaison for that. Right? Because she had a history with Trump and everything. Now, this is the thing that I want to get into, is the fact that Omarosa made some claims when she was unceremoniously let go. When she was let go. Now, this is from news reports. We weren't there, but this is stuff that came out. Is that when White House Chief of Staff John Kelly said to her that she had to go, she went and said, "Well, I need to talk to the president." Black delusion number one. I need to talk to the president. This thing that we feel sometimes that we miscalculate what our access to white-based power.
Right.
You know what I mean? We miscalculate that. A lot of times we think we're in when we ain't.
Yep.
And so she felt right then and there she wasn't in. Because John Kelly said, no, you can't talk to him. So then, I'm not going to say about her being dragged out, because there's some stories coming out saying that was fake, that didn't actually happen to her. Right. But what we do know is the fact that she told Trump, or at least wanted it relayed to Trump through Kelly, that, well, he shouldn't be doing this to me because I was the one who delivered the black votes to him. So Omarosa made this claim that the black folks who voted for Trump, and there were some, that she was the one responsible for delivering these black votes to Trump. And John Kelly, once again, reminded her that, no, you did not. Right? Black delusion number two. So why is it? And I'm with you, Jackie. I don't revel in the fact that she got put out. But I'm not sad that she got put out, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm not sad. We talk on this show all the time about black political agendas, about black politics, and the importance of black politics in order to uplift black people and help us to get out of this bottom that we've been finding ourselves in since the first Africans got off the boat. Yep. This permanent bottom that we seem to not to be able to extricate ourselves from as a group, not individuals, as a group. As a group. Now, we don't have time, and if any of you have listened to us on this show, and we spoke about the affairs of Black America, and let's talk. When I say Black America, I'm talking about the masses. Right. That black people are disproportionately poor, disproportionately unhealthy, disproportionately uneducated, are living in areas that are severely disinvested in. And mass incarceration, all of these things. It's always an attack. There is never any relief for black people in this country from being attacked from all sides, whether it's from the criminal justice system, whether it's from Wall Street, whether it's from local government who allow developers to come up with policy that push us out. All of these things, whether it's closing our schools in support of private funded schools. So all of this stuff, all of these agendas is always an attack on our community.
Right.
Now, we don't have time. And this is the thing why I was so upset with the whole Omarosa appointment. Like I was upset with the black pastors that went in there to see candidate Trump. Like I'm upset about a lot of so-called black people, whether they're pastors or whatever, is the fact that Omarosa done what so many other black politicians do, what the CBC is doing now, and everything else. They use these positions not for the benefit of uplifting a permanent underclass, which looks like them. No, Omarosa was in there to promote Omarosa. She was in there for 7 months. And out of those 7 months that she was in there, and there was one time now, there was many times before she was denied access to Trump only about a month or two ago. But up until then, they said that she had a direct access to Trump. She didn't have to go through anybody to get to Trump. But what did they say? And this was from credible White House sources. That instead of her going in there saying, what can we do for the black people of D.C.?
Right.
This is the plan that I got to help black people get affordable housing or health care, or access to better health care, or access to better education. No, she was in there promoting drama. She was in there she was living The Apprentice inside the White House, but she was no longer on the program.
Come on now.
So now the gig is up, and she was getting paid pretty much. They said she was getting paid like $180,000 a year.
That's around the salary.
Right.
Yeah.
So now she's a highly paid clown.
Come on.
That got up in there, and it wasn't about black people in D.C., Baltimore, whatever, all this stuff that she was supposed to help. No, it was about, look, y'all, and too many of you black politicians and stuff, it's not just Omarosa, it's Al Sharpton, who for the 8 years of Obama, he went in there and he sat at these $1,000 plate dinners held at the White House. He was in there, he had direct access to Obama. But what in the hell did Al Sharpton do to influence Obama to put any policy out here for the people out in the street?
Nothing. And then that is delusion number 3 on our part. Because see, delusion number 1 and 2, that's delusion on these on the people, on the black people who are in positions of authority or influence. They're delusional too, because they believe that they're actually more important to the system than they really are. Oh, make no mistake about it, the system needs them. The system does need them.
Oh yeah.
But what they don't understand is that the system doesn't need them in particular. The system just needs people like them. That's all. The system just needs people like them with morals, with moral clarity into the struggle of black liberation that is just cloudy enough for them to believe I can take a break from advocating for black people and black issues long enough for me to get this paper. That's
what it boils down to.
And then it turns into, or just people who come right out and say, I ain't about that struggle. I ain't about that struggle. Those people, you're right. Those people are lazy and they don't work hard enough and it's their fault. And I don't have nothing to do with the Colin Kaepernicks. I ain't got nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. I ain't got nothing to do. That's not my fight. I'm trying to plan my wedding and take pictures with my wedding party in the White House. That's what Mrs. Manigault Newman did when she was in the White House.
Because she wanted some good pictures on Instagram. You know, that, and see, that's, and look, like I told y'all, if you're new to this, you better buckle up. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the Negro politics that is being played by the CBC, the Negro politics that is being played by Bowser down here in D.C., the Negro politics that is being that was played by Omarosa, who is the biggest loser? The black masses are the biggest loser.
Yep.
Now, like I said before, Omarosa has 7 months 7 months before they denied her access to Trump. She had 7 months, if she was serious, to go and say, well, look, this is the first thing that I want to do in order. That's the reason why, and I agree with what you said earlier, Jackie, black folks, we had lost out on 8 years of Obama doing the same thing. You know what? Let me be clear to y'all. White folks are looking, and they're laughing. You know what I mean? And those who aren't laughing, because we see it on our Facebook page, those who aren't laughing, they're crying. You don't know how many sad emojis we get on this thing, because it's sad. It's sad. It is sad that black politicians once again have gone for what I call the trinkets. The trinkets. Omarosa, the trinkets. Oh, look at me. I'm such and such in the White House. Look at this independent black woman doing my thing and this and that and the other. But you ain't in there to floss for you.
That's right.
You're not in there. Nobody gives a damn about an independent black woman next to Trump flossing you. That woman around at the projects who's banking on you having access to power don't give a damn about you. And we got to get past the symbolism. Symbolism is what killed us during Obama.
Oh my gosh!
Symbolism and the worship of symbolism and celebrity is what's killing black people in this country. It's burying us economically. It's burying us socially. It's burying us everywhere. And until we grow up in this country and start learning what politics is and playing politics in a way that's going to ensure our future in this country, we're not going to make it. We got to stop with this. We're playing politics based upon celebrity and personality and accepting trinkets.
Yep.
And we got to stop. We got to stop with viewing politics. Steve Bannon. Say what you want about Steve Bannon. His scruffiness. I mean, the way that he looked.
He looks like he needs penicillin.
Say what you want about Steve Bannon, but Steve Bannon never stopped. Steve Bannon went in the White House advocating for his folks.
Oh, look, listen. I have always said that part of the problem with the left is that we refuse to learn from the strategies that worked on the right. And it's very interesting to me. This is just a little aside. It's very interesting to me that the very same people in this progressive movement, whatever the hell it really is, this progressive movement on the left, y'all don't want to listen to people talking about the Tea Party strategy that got the Tea Party, not just eventually one of their crazy people in the White House as vice president, this close to the presidency, but before that, won city council seats, school board seats, mayoral offices, governor's offices, state legislatures, all of the positions and the offices that decide state legislation and decide on money for the states. That's how the Tea Party was successful in reforming the Republican Party, turning the Republican Party into the image of the Tea Party that they wanted, and eventually taking over the government because they started at the local level.
Yes, right.
But see, y'all don't want to listen to that, because as soon as somebody says Tea Party, well, this is what you do. It's the same thing you do when somebody says Jesus, church, religion, God, Christian, Muslim, faith, prayer,
or black.
This is what y'all do. That's what you do. And so when we talk about the Tea Party strategy, we literally are talking about how they did it. We're not talking about the outcome or why they were doing it. We're talking about, let's examine how they won. Why they won. What did they do to win? But y'all know everything. But these are the same people, though, don't want to examine Tea Party strategy, but they're the same people who talk about, well, we can work with people in the alt-right to get Medicare for all passed. But you're right about Steve Bannon. And people like him. Because there's a bunch of people like him still in the White House.
Right.
The people on the left were so silly when Bannon was fired from the chief, and we were like, he ain't going nowhere. He's just not gonna show up to the White House for work every day.
Well, Trump already said that he talks to him like almost every day.
The relationship is still there. The guidance is still there. The platform is still there. The strategy is still there. And Steve Bannon still goes and speaks to the Republican base on behalf of the president and delivers the message of the Tea Party GOP, which is now the ethno-nationalist, white supremacist, let's make America white again, GOP. And Steve Bannon has never not espoused that message.
Nope.
Nobody in the Trump White House who's white, has ever gone into the Trump White House and not evangelized to the base. None of them.
But this is where black people, we need to feel so disrespected by our so-called black political leaders. Since Obama left the White House, and it's been almost a year now, there has been nothing from him advocating anything for the black people who put him in office at 98% of their vote twice,
right,
who was responsible for his 8 years. And while we're on the topic of Bannon, and I can already answer this myself. I am really, I wonder what type of advocacy, now that Omarosa doesn't have that job anymore. Well, she's still there, but she leaves in January.
Mm-hmm.
In January, how much advocacy Pastor Omarosa, because she's a pastor now. That's the new hustle, y'all. It's the Christ hustle in the black community. Everybody's called to preach.
Mm-hmm.
And so now she's a pastor, along with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if she's going to take her notoriety, her celebrity, and if she was really about her job in the White House, why does it have to end because she's not there?
Right.
She has a public profile now.
Exactly.
People know it. So what I'm saying is that black folks, we don't have that advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
See, even poor whites have Steve Bannon as social capital.
Right.
Steve Bannon has the ear of Trump every day. He's going around and he's promoting his agenda.
Mm-hmm.
But black people, we continually give support to people who don't give two damns about us.
Yep.
And unfortunately, too many of them look like us.
Exactly. And even though the Steve Bannons of the political world, really, at the end of the day, they don't intend to do too much for poor white people, at the very least, they will tell them that I have that you have my ear. At the very least, they will go to these town halls and they'll listen to what people have to say. When Omarosa was in this position at the White House for 7 months, during that period of time, it was Black History Month. And now the Black History Month program at the White House is a big deal. It really is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And that is a time for whoever is in this position to bring certain leaders to the White House. And I know that's messed up all by itself, that we can only come to the White House one time a month. And, the most radical among us can only come to the White House one time a month. I know that's messed up, but that's not the point. That's another point. But that's an opportunity that is used every year since this office has been created, to highlight some of the issues, especially put a microscope or a big white hot stage light on some of the issues facing the black community. That's the time of month where you bring somebody from the Urban League to talk about the Marshall Plan for America,
right?
The Marshall Plan for Black America. Right, because that February is the one time in the White House where everybody can talk about black stuff and ain't nobody gonna say nothing because it's Black History Month, right? But she didn't even do that. She didn't even do that. As a matter of fact, it is rumored that she didn't even bother to invite a lot of people to events at the White House. They didn't have a lot of events around Black History Month at the White House this year. Now, part of that is because of who's president. But if Omarosa was the one who delivered the black vote for Donald Trump, which is BS, but if she's the black face in the White House, and if we really expected her to act on her behalf, then she should have made sure that there was more going on in the White House during Black History Month than there was. But because Omarosa is who she always was, I don't know why anybody thought she would do anything different.
Wow.
So I'm at odds right now with people, saying, oh, we shouldn't take pleasure in Omarosa's downfall, and we shouldn't be celebrating somebody doing this to a black woman. If this person was not who she is, I would agree with them. But see, I don't look at Omarosa as one of us. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. Because she has never presented herself to be one of us. She's out for herself. And if that's who you are, that's fine. I got no problem with that. People can be self-serving and money grubbing and, attention seekers, and that's fine. But you don't get to play the black card just because you didn't get what you wanted.
That's true.
You don't get to play the black card with me just because your plans for what you wanted didn't play out the way you expected them to. Because she said in an interview, look, I understand that this appointment is usually for a year. And it usually is for a year. And then that person who's appointed moves on and they bring another person in. She ain't last a year. But she said in an interview, my plan was to make that year mark and then get on with my life. Her plan was never to be in there to advocate for us.
There you go.
But because this is our delusion number 4, and this is a segue into our show on Wednesday night, and probably a couple shows after that. This is delusion number 4 for black people in politics. This is the problem with the state of black politics today. We got a beef going on in the black intelligentsia world right now between two giants. One person who I consider a longtime giant, Dr. Cornel West. He's got, and I'm not even going to call it a beef, because the man is doing what we are supposed to be doing with our political leaders or people, black people who are in positions of influence, and that is rightly divining and criticizing policy platforms and ideology. And he's doing that with Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Right.
But because people are in love with Ta-Nehisi Coates, because Ta-Nehisi Coates can write real good, as we say, and he can, people don't like that Cornel West is criticizing Coates for Coates' lack of criticism for President Obama or of President Obama. And I see this a lot. We see this a lot.
Right, that's right.
Among black people who don't like black people who criticize President Obama because of what the black masses didn't get under 8 years of Obama. Coates writes a book. He wrote a book that said we were in power. I think the title was We Were in Power for 8 years, and Cornel West's whole premise is we were not in power for 8 years.
Yeah, but we're going to explore that Wednesday. I mean, it's like, it's so much to put into that.
Right.
And I mean, we done kept y'all for over an hour, so you know what I mean. So
it's our show. I mean, but this is delusion number 4 among black people.
That is true.
In politics, and why this is a sad state of black politics in this country. Our refusal to hold black leaders or people in positions of authority accountable. That's our delusion. Because when we don't question these people, when we don't ask them, what are you going to do with the position and the influence that you have that's going to make things better for those of us on the bottom? When we don't do that and we sit back and do what you said,
right,
the celebrity worship and the worship of symbolism, all we get is symbolism and celebrity. We don't get policy.
Nope.
We don't get progress. We don't get change. And you have an interesting, I think very, very interesting perspective on why that is for a certain generation of people in politics. And to find out what that is, you have to join us Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, we'll be live at 6:30 p.m. continuing this discussion.
Yeah, we won't be doing a Sunday show because it's Christmas Eve.
Yes, it is Christmas Eve.
So we won't be back until that following Wednesday.
Yes. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, share this video, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube. Consider becoming a patron through our Patreon account, or consider contributing to our efforts through our GoFundMe account. You can find us on all of those platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, and GoFundMe by searching for Luqman Nation, LuqManNation, 2 words. Thank you all very much for joining us. You all have a very, very good night. Be very good to each other. Peace.